There is a specific kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. It is not physical fatigue, and it is not merely the byproduct of a stressful workday. It is a drowning sensation that hits you the moment you step into a crowded room, a sudden, crushing weight that descends upon your chest when you are speaking to someone who is smiling, yet somehow terrified you. You find yourself constantly scanning your environment, not out of fear, but out of a compulsion you cannot control. You see the lie before the words leave their lips. You feel the aggression hidden behind a polite handshake. You absorb the grief of a stranger sitting across from you on the train until their sadness becomes indistinguishable from your own. And because you see what others ignore, because you feel what others repress, you have spent your entire life being told that you are too sensitive, that you are overthinking, or that you are simply imagining things. But Jung would argue that you are not imagining anything. You are perceiving a layer of reality that the modern world has desperately tried to sanitize and suppress. Whatever you think this is, anxiety, paranoia, or social awkwardness, it is actually a sophisticated, albeit painful, biological and psychological mechanism. You are not broken. You are suffering from what I call Neuro-Anticipatory Fatigue, the result of a nervous system that is wired to process data from the unconscious mind before the conscious mind can even name it. Carl Jung identified this decades ago, long before fMRI machines could confirm his theories. He called it the burden of the introverted intuitive, a personality configuration that does not look at the world, but through it. To understand why you feel this isolation, we must look at the mechanics of your perception. Jung posited that the vast majority of human communication happens in the unconscious. It is the realm of the shadow, where we hide our malice, our jealousy, and our unhealed traumas. Most people interact with the persona, the social mask that others wear. They are happy to accept the polite lie. But you do not have that luxury. Your psyche is structurally incapable of stopping at the persona. You are suffering from the Transparent Facade Effect. When someone lies to you, your brain does not just hear the words, it registers the dissonance. Modern neuroscience tells us that the anterior insula, the part of the brain responsible for emotional awareness and empathy, is hyperactive in people with high intuition. Your mirror neurons are not just mimicking the person in front of you, they are excavating them. When you feel sudden rage or sadness that seems to have no origin in your own life, you are experiencing what Jung described as psychic contagion. You are a lightning rod for the repressed energy of the room. This is not a metaphor, it is a physiological state. Your cortisol levels spike not because you are in danger, but because your limbic system has detected the concealed predatory intent of a coworker or the suppressed grief of a partner. You are carrying the emotional luggage that everyone else has abandoned at the door. Jung warned that for the intuitive type, the barrier between me and you is dangerously thin. If you do not understand this, you will diagnose yourself as mentally unstable. You will think you are moody or bipolar, when in reality you are simply a high-fidelity receiver in a world full of static noise. This leads us to the most dangerous paradox of the highly intuitive person. Jung observed that because you perceive the archetypes, the fundamental recurring patterns of human behavior, you often know the outcome of a situation long before it happens. You see the betrayal coming months in advance. You sense the business failure before the contract is signed. But because this information comes from the intuitive function, which operates in the dark waters of the unconscious, you often cannot provide logical proof to those around you. You are trapped in the Cassandra frequency. In Greek mythology, Cassandra was given the gift of prophecy, but cursed so that no one would ever believe her. This is the daily reality of the Jungian intuitive. You warn them, they ignore you. The disaster happens. And instead of feeling vindicated, you feel a deep, isolating sorrow, because you realize that your clarity is not a tool for connection, but a wedge of separation. Jung believed that this friction exists because the modern world is dominated by the sensation and thinking functions, systems that value only what can be touched, measured, and logically deduced. Your gift is an evolutionary outlier. It is a survival mechanism that dates back to when we needed to sense a predator in the tall grass, not by seeing it, but by feeling the shift in the air pressure. Today, however, that predator is a gaslighting partner or a toxic corporate culture. The mechanism is the same, but the context has shifted, leaving you with a biological alarm system that never turns off. To illustrate this, we must look at a specific psychological profile Jung frequently encountered. Let us consider the case of a man we will call Elias. Elias was a mid-level architect, successful by all societal metrics, yet he came to Jung plagued by chronic insomnia and a paralysis of the will. Elias described a recurring phenomenon. He would sit in board meetings and feel a physical nausea whenever his superior presented a new project. The superior was charismatic, well-liked, and presented flawless data. Logically, Elias had no reason to doubt him. Yet, Elias told Jung he could smell the rot in the man's ambition. He felt a visceral repulsion, a certainty that this project would destroy the firm. Elias's colleagues mocked him. They told him he was being negative, that he lacked vision. Elias began to repress his intuition, forcing himself to smile, to agree, to play the game. He developed what I call the compliance mask, a desperate attempt to sedate his own knowing to fit into the herd. But the psyche does not tolerate betrayal. Jung noted that when the intuitive function is repressed, it turns against the subject. Elias didn't just lose sleep, he began to experience somatic symptoms, migraines, stomach ulcers, and a pervasive sense of doom. The unconscious was screaming at him, trying to force him to acknowledge the reality his conscious mind was trying to deny. 6 months later, the superior was indicted for embezzlement, and the project collapsed, nearly bankrupting the firm. Elias was vindicated, but he was not relieved. He was broken. He asked Jung, "Why is it a curse to see the truth?" Jung's answer was chillingly precise. "It is only a curse because you believe you are supposed to be like them." Jung explained that Elias was trying to measure his ocean with their ruler. He was trying to validate his intuitive data through the lens of their sensory limitations. This is the trap you likely find yourself in right now. You are waiting for the world to give you permission to trust your gut. But the world cannot give you that permission because the world is blind to what you see. You must understand that high intuition is not just a personality quirk. It is a different operating system entirely. And like any powerful system, it has distinct stages of development. Most people never make it past the first stage, living in a perpetual state of overwhelmed confusion. Jung suggested that the path to mastering this is not to shut it off, which is impossible, but to differentiate the signal from the noise. We must break down the anatomy of this intuition to understand the specific ways it manifests and how it attempts to communicate with you. There are clear diagnostic signs that you have crossed the threshold from simple empathy into what Jung called the visionary mode. The first sign is a phenomenon I categorize as chronological displacement. You often feel out of step with time. While your peers are obsessed with the immediate gratification of the present moment, the sensation function, your mind is perpetually inhabiting the future. You are running simulations, calculating trajectories, seeing the inevitable decay of things that currently look fresh and new. This is why you struggle to enjoy parties or mindless social gatherings. You are looking at a celebration, but your intuition is showing you the hangover, the cleanup, and the eventual drift of the friendships in the room. You are grieving the end of things before they have even fully begun. This is not pessimism, it is the burden of the long view. The prefrontal cortex in the intuitive brain is highly connected to the hippocampus, constantly comparing the present moment to a vast library of historical patterns, projecting them forward. You are living in a probabilistic future, which makes the present feel like a rerun of a movie you have already seen. The second sign that you are operating within this high-frequency neuro-architecture is a trait I classify as the shadow magnet effect. You likely find that complete strangers feel an inexplicable compulsion to tell you their deepest secrets within minutes of meeting you. People who are typically guarded will suddenly spill their trauma onto you in the checkout line or a waiting room. This is not a coincidence. It is a reaction to your energetic signature. Jung explained that the shadow, the repressed, dark side of the personality, wants to be seen. Because your psyche has no filter for the unconscious, you act as a walking confessional. You validate their hidden pain simply by existing. But this comes at a terrible cost to your own metabolic resources. You are absorbing the entropy of their systems, regulating their emotions while destabilizing your own. You walk away feeling heavy, drained, and polluted, suffering from what modern psychology might call compassion fatigue, but which Jung would identify as a failure of the psychic membrane. You have become a vessel for everyone else's waste. The third, and perhaps most isolating sign, is linguistic insufficiency. You constantly struggle to articulate what you know because language was invented to describe the physical world, not the intuitive one. You know things in flashes of image, feeling, and certainty, a process involving the rapid firing of the right hemisphere's holistic processing centers. But when you try to translate this holographic insight into linear sentences for the benefit of a thinking type, the meaning collapses. You sound vague or irrational. Jung noted that the intuitive type often appears baffling to others because they are speaking a dialect of symbols and patterns that the average person cannot decipher. You are trying to explain the color blue to a society that only sees in black and white. This leads to a profound silence, a retreat into the self where you stop trying to explain, resulting in a state of hermetic sealedness, where you hoard your insights because sharing them only leads to misunderstanding. But the danger here is not just silence, it is toxicity. Jung warned that if the intuitive function is not properly managed, it leads to inflation or possession. You might begin to feel superior, detached, or godlike in your isolation, viewing others as sheep or asleep. This is the trap of the ego hijacking the gift. Alternatively, you might sink into a deep neurosis, convinced that you are fundamentally incompatible with life itself. So, how do you survive this? How do you live as an open nerve in a world of blunt objects? Jung's solution was not to harden your heart, that would be a regression, but to develop what I call selective empathic immunity. The first step in this integration process is the practice of differentiation. You must rigorously train your mind to ask a single, diagnostic question whenever a sudden emotion strikes you. Is this mine? Jung taught that the psyche is permeable. Just because a feeling is inside your body does not mean it originated there. When rage hits you, pause. Scan your immediate reality. If there is no logical cause for this rage in your own life, you must identify it as a foreign object. You are perceiving the rage of the collective or the person next to you. By naming it as external, you break the circuit. You move from being the victim of the emotion to the observer of it. This disengages the fight or flight response of the amygdala and re-engages the analytical prefrontal cortex. The second step is what Jung called giving form to the intuition. The energy you hold is high voltage. If it stays trapped in your body, it will burn out your nervous system. You must create a creative grounding rod. Jung himself spent hours building stone towers and painting complex mandalas to channel his overwhelming psychic energy. You cannot simply think your way out of intuition. You must act it out. Write, paint, build, or speak. When you externalize the intuition, you stop being possessed by it. You transform from a haunted vessel into a master craftsman. You stop drowning in the waters of the unconscious and learn to build a boat. Finally, you must accept the responsibility of your type. In Jungian philosophy, the individuated person does not fit in. They stand apart to guide. You are not meant to be comfortable in the herd. The friction you feel is the friction of evolution. Modern neuroscience suggests that human consciousness is still developing, expanding its capacity to process information. You are the prototype of what is coming, a human being capable of sensing the unseen connections that bind reality together. Your exhaustion is real, but it is not a symptom of sickness. It is the symptom of a heavy workload. You are doing the invisible labor of feeling what the world refuses to feel. You are the immune system of the collective unconscious. Do not envy the blind their ignorance. Do not envy the numb their sleep. Your ability to see the darkness is exactly what allows you to navigate toward the light. Stop trying to fix yourself. There is nothing to fix. There is only something to manage, to hone, and to wield. The world is changing, and it needs eyes that can see in the dark. Embrace the shadow, integrate the silence, and trust the terrifying clarity of your own soul. See you in the next dimension.